Welcome to this edition of Tips Tuesday. Today we are going to be talking about your credit score, your FICO credit score, and all the details, ins and outs of what goes into it and how it affects you in buying a home and why it's even important. So stay tuned, it's going to be some awesome information. This edition of Tips Tuesday, we are going to be talking about credit score and how it impacts your chances of buying a house. Now, that is important details, and that's why I thought it'd be great to bring in an expert. I have Glenn Hendricks here from Capital Credit Service that is going to be talking to us about credit score and why it's even important and some aspects of that. So, without further ado, one of the biggest things that we have encountered, or that I encounter as an agent, is payment history. A lot of my clients may have a low credit score. They may be monitoring their credit score with some kind of Credit Karma, some kind of online app or things like that. And as I discussed in previous videos, that is not always accurate because it's only looking at one score and a lender is going to look at all three. So it's important to think about all of that when you're talking about your credit score. So Glenn, what would you say is probably the biggest impact of payment history? Like, how does that impact someone's credit score?
Yeah, it's really a great question, and I think that most of us think that if I just pay my accounts on time, I'm going to have a great credit score, which that's not always the case because there's certainly a lot of other factors that come into that. But payment history is the most powerful piece of your credit score, and it accounts for 35% of your score, which is 192.5 points. Mm-hmm. So it's important to make sure that you are paying your bills on time. It's making sure that you're not going 30 days past due, 60 days past due, 90 days past due, because it does impact your score quite a bit. And what folks don't realize is the most recent ones affected the greatest. And as over time goes, they certainly decrease in the amount that the algorithms account for. But certainly it plays an important part of your credit score, and making your payments on time is probably the number one factor, and I recommend making sure that you can stay on top of those with everything that you can.
Awesome. So one other thing that I've encountered too is people that have maybe encountered a low credit score start paying their bills on time and haven't seen it increase as fast as they'd like. How long does that typically take, and what do you recommend to do it the fastest possible? Sure.
Well, when we're still referring to your payment history, a 30-day delinquency can really affect your score up to 9 months. Now, if you go 60 days past due, that score is going to stay and have an effect probably for another 12 to 16 months. So it is going to have a stronger impact on it. And certainly what we can do, what you can do is talk to your lender, your provider, your credit card company, and talk to them about ways that you can avoid this if you see this as a foreseeable income issue in the future. Mm-hmm. To work with them to prevent them from having to put that 30 or 60 day mark on there. Most of the time they're willing to work with you, but certainly things do happen, and there are certain ways that we can challenge that by looking at errors that the creditor may be reporting to the bureaus, and we can help get those removed in some instances. So certainly it's not something that just because it is on your credit has to stay there. It's certainly something that can be reviewed to be removed.
Oh, awesome. So even if it's on there, it's not necessarily going to take that long or take 6 months to remove, but it could happen if you dispute it, or is that kind of what I'm understanding?
Absolutely. So 80% of all credit bureaus have some sort of error on it. And that's really where we come in and we look at the discrepancies of what's being reported from TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. And we identify the differences. And that way we can say that is an error, and either the bureau has to report it, correct the report, or not report that at all. And in this situation, we don't necessarily want to delete the account. We just want to make sure that we get that delinquency removed from that particular month and year. So that's really the important piece that we're going to look at and try to work on your behalf for.
Awesome. That was some really great info, and it's important to remember that there are things that you can do, but it's important to have professionals that can actually help you to accomplish that a little quicker, or navigate the process that is not so difficult for someone that does it all the time. Just like a realtor, I do this every single day, day in and day out, so I'm well versed in a lot of the issues that can come about. Same thing with a credit repair company like Glenn's, that you can actually talk to experts that can do this day in and day out. They know the tricks to help get you where you need to be, especially if you're in a situation that you need to get that done quickly. One thing I want to talk about was the capacity and amount owed. Like, how does that affect credit if someone's looking to buy?
Absolutely, Kevin. And really, this is probably the quickest and easiest way to get your credit score to go up.
Talk a little bit about what that means, first of all.
So,
capacity and amount owed.
So the capacity to the amount owed is if you have a credit card with a $5,000 limit, what is the amount that you owe? Is that $4,999, or is that $250 on a $5,000 credit card? So that's what we're referring to when we say the capacity to the amount that the lender has granted you. So that's the $5,000 credit line and the balance that you owe. Now, the closer to that credit line that you are, the less points you're going to get. Now, this piece equates for 30% of your credit score. So it's 165 points. So by going in and making payments and bringing that balance down to about 5 to 10%, so on a $5,000 credit line, 10% would be $500. Now, if you can maintain that for about 60 days prior to going to your lender for a mortgage, what that's going to do is give the bureaus enough time to update what the creditor is reporting, and therefore your credit score is actually going to go up. So the algorithms look at each individual account, and then they take all of the accounts and they put them together, and then there's another algorithm for the total balances versus the total credit limits.
So basically, keep your limits low, below 10%.
And I know that that really sounds pretty harsh when you say I should be running a $500 balance with a $5,000 credit line. It is what the algorithm is set to do, and it's looking for those lower payment or those lower amounts versus the actual amount that is due. Now, I know that some folks may say, well, this is part of my business, and maybe I pay my credit card off every month, but I don't see that happening. And that could be because the creditor is actually reporting prior to you actually making that payment and bringing that balance down. So what happens is the creditors are reporting to the bureaus that you have a high balance, and they're only reporting that one time a month, so they may not be hitting it when you actually pay the account off. So it's important, if you are going to go for a mortgage or you know that you're going to be applying for a loan, it is important to go in that 60 days prior and just make sure that you're maintaining that at a lower balance. Once you're approved, then you can go back to your normal habits of making the charges and paying that off every month.
And I think that's a really good point, is this is to really get you in a position to be able to purchase much easier than you would without help. So if you are in a dire situation where you need to get your credit score up very quickly, or you really need to aggressively pursue that and you don't want to take 5 years to do that on your own, it's important to really know the tricks that can get you there quicker and the quickest as possible. So that's the reason why I partner with gentlemen like Glenn that can actually do that for my clients to get you where you need to be. So definitely something that is important to think about when you're looking to buy a house. One of the other things I want to talk about is the types of credit that are used to identify a score, because a lot of people say, well, I can just start with a credit card with a low balance or things like that, or I can do a prepaid card and be able to pay that off, or things like that. What would you say are the quickest, or what are the types of credit that are used, and how can you utilize the best? Sure,
and that's a great question again. And this equates for a little bit smaller percentage, and this is actually 10%. So really, you're only getting 55 points on this. But the three types of credit that the algorithm is looking for is an auto loan, it's looking for a credit card, and it's looking for a mortgage. So those are really the three types that they're looking for. Student loans wouldn't be included in that. That's a government loan. So they're really the three types that you're looking for. And maybe not everyone has a mortgage, and that's really what you're trying to acquire. Just know that at least 66% of that 55 points you're getting credit for. And then obviously once you get into the mortgage loan, then you're going to have all three pieces covered.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention, or things that you think are important in this on the credit score? Or?
I think that it's important also, and I'm going to touch on inquiries because I really think that that's an important piece, and the conception is that the more inquiries I have, obviously my score is going to drop. And again, inquiries are 10% of your score, which is 55 points. And obviously if you're going credit crazy and you're applying for everything, then you are going to have more inquiries, which can drop your score. Now again, we're talking 55 points. Now understand also that if you go to an auto dealership to buy a loan and they send it out to multiple community banks to get approved, realize that if they send it out to 10 and all 10 pull your credit, that's not 10 inquiries, that's really just one inquiry because it's the same instance. It's all within that certain time frame. And that would be the same with mortgages. If you're shopping different lenders, just know that within that 30-day time period, it's really just accounting for the one inquiry.
And would you agree that it's important that if someone is trying to get qualified for a house, to do it earlier than later, and being able to minimize that hit to their credit, as far as, and how much is that hit, that if that one serious inquiry is made?
Sure, and I think that you bring up a very valid point, and that is that, you know, certainly if you are going to be applying for a loan in the near future, it makes sense to take all things into consideration as far as what you're looking to purchase. Really, if you talk to most lenders, you talk to Capital Credit Service, we're going to tell you to hold off on making any large purchases, whether that's going to Home Depot, whether that's going to American Furniture to purchase your furniture, you want to buy a new car. Let's get you into the mortgage first and get you in with a lender, get you to the closing table, and then it's time to go and buy your appliances and your refrigerators, and you can do all of that afterwards. But our sense is to make sure that you're getting to the closing table and getting that complete. And not to get in a rabbit hole here, because I'm not a lender, not a licensed mortgage lender. I do know that some lenders will do a credit pull prior to you going to the closing table. And if they do see some things like this happen, for example, you did go out and get some credit, it could prevent some certain things from happening. And certainly we just don't want you to fall short at the closing table. So we want to make sure we get you to the finish line.
Absolutely, and that's why I recommend to my clients to actually pull credit early, to make sure it is there's nothing else that's going to prevent you from getting the loan, especially if it's 2 years from now, a year from now. The earlier the better. That way you have time to recover from any kind of credit inquiry hit, and you also are able to find out any errors or problems down to a pretty deep level, and you can resolve those pretty quickly, as you know, with the help of people like Glenn that can look at the actual details and figure it out for you. So I hope you found all this information helpful. I know that this is a very high level overview of credit score, things like that, but if you would like to set up an in-person consultation, I myself would be able to do that with you, not on the credit side, but just to start the process on what your house buying process may look like and what you may still need. Glenn has an offer that he'd like to give you if you would like to set up a consultation with him to start looking at credit repair that he'd like to give you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Kevin. So if you do enroll, or you do sign up to get some additional information, or would like a free consultation and analysis, we'll provide you with the 3 easy to follow steps to improve your credit before purchasing a home.
So all you need to do is click on the link below or click the Learn More button. We'll be happy to get you signed up for that, or send me a private message and we will get you that information. We just need your name, email, and phone number, and we can get you that consultation started and book a time to start getting your future. Let's plan your future. You know, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So take that first step to making home ownership. Don't make excuses. There is help out there, and I've done it for many of my clients, and I will continue to do and work hard for all of my clients moving forward. So thanks for watching today, and we'll see you next time.